Hello fellow tankers, this is Dauntless and welcome to Tank Showdown. This series we're going to be pitting two vehicles of similar nature against each other to see who comes up the victor. In this episode we're going to be comparing the AMX 13105 to the EBR 105. Both are tier 10 French light tanks and both are somewhat noticeable for certain, reasons of their own. AMX 13105 is the only tier 10 auto-loading light tank, while the EBR is the only tier 10 wheeled light tank. They both have their strengths and they both have their weaknesses, so let's go ahead and break them down and see which one comes out on top. The first criteria is going to be firepower. Now these tanks are going to be able to score a maximum of 5 points per category in 5 different categories, and they'll be able to score a total of 25 points total. So again, firepower is the first aspect that we're going to be looking at, and we'll just take a look at the AMX 13105 first. The AMX 13105 has a 2200 DPM. It's got 390 alpha damage with 234 penetration. Now these stats are decent. I would say pretty middle of the line for a light tank, except for the alpha damage. 390 is a pretty solid stat for alpha damage for a tier 10 light tank. The WZ-132A, the 132-1 and the EBR are the only tier 10 light tanks that have that kind of alpha damage if you don't count the derp gun on the Sheridan. The reload speed is about 26 seconds for the whole clip with a 2.7, I believe 2.73 reload between shells. I mean, you can spit out about 1200 damage in a clip in about 5.5 seconds, which is actually quite powerful. Now, combined with the tank's mobility and ability to flex and get around the map and do a lot of burst damage, this damage can be used quite nicely. The accuracy is only 0.4, which compared to other light tanks is kind of middle of the road. Light tanks at tier 10 do seem to be pretty derpy in nature, but all in all, I'll give this thing a solid 3.5 out of 5 stars for firepower. The next aspect we'll be looking at is survivability. Now the AMX 13105 doesn't have that much armor. Actually, it has no armor. It has 50 millimeters at the front, 20 on the side, and 15 on the back. Turret armor is nothing spectacular either, and it really doesn't have any angles to speak of. You have about 1400 HP. Well, you have exactly 1400 HP actually, and all in all, it's a small size, so it's a small silhouette to hit. It also is decently mobile. So that being said, survivability, not anything staggering, but I'll give it a solid 3 out of 5. Next, we'll look at maneuverability. The top speed of this tank is 68 kilometers per hour with a 22 kilometer back speed. Power to weight is 37.5, and the ground resistances are pretty average. When you drive this thing, sometimes it does feel a little bit sluggish, and that you wish you could go a little bit faster, but for what it is at tier 10, it is one of the more mobile vehicles, so I will give it a solid 4.3 out of 5. Next, we'll be looking at visibility. Visibility is going to be kind of a combination of how visible you are versus how visible the opponent is. So we'll be looking at camo values and view range. The view range is 390, which, if we're being realistic, there are tier 8s with that kind of vision. So for a tier 10 light tank, we would certainly expect to have more view range, but if you mount optics, you're running food, those kinds of things, you definitely can get a really, really good view range out of it. So I'm going to give it a solid 4 for vision, just because the camouflage values are quite high. Not when you're shooting, obviously, but on the move and stationary. Considering you're a small vehicle, you can hide in a lot of bushes. I'll give it a solid 4 out of 5 for visibility. And then versatility. What does this tank have to offer? Is it friendly to play? Kind of. The burst and alpha damage is really nice for a light tank. You can really brawl if you have to. The gun depression is actually pretty good at -8 degrees, while the elevation is not great at 12 degrees. The traverse is great. The traverse of the turret is really solid. The gun handling is not awesome, but you can reliably put 3 shells in if you aim just a little bit at close to medium range. You don't really have any special ammo types or anything, and the velocity is pretty standard. I believe it's 1,000 meters a second for the standard shells, which are ACPCR, and then 800 meters a second for its heat shells. The HE shells aren't really anything special either. But all in all, I'll give it a 3.8 out of 5 stars for versatility, which brings our total to 18.6 out of 25 for the AMX 105, or 13105. Alright, next we'll be looking at the AMX 13105's infamous little brother, the EBR 105. Now, I know many of you dislike this vehicle, and for good reason. You know, this thing is kind of a cancer to the game. I personally don't like it as well, but I will try to do my best to not let that bias affect my score of this vehicle. So we'll jump right in. The AMX EBR 105 has a 390 alpha damage, and I don't think I mentioned it before, but the Manticore also has 390 alpha. So at this point, 390 alpha is the highest you can get in a light tank, but it's also nothing really special. So, you know, it's about a 50-50 for that. Not great. The penetration is very situational. 190 millimeters of penetration at tier 10 is quite horrible, actually. There are many tier 8 vehicles of all classes that have higher penetration base than the EBR, so that definitely hinders the vehicle. It's firepower anyway, and then the heat rounds are nothing special with 240 millimeters of penetration. So all in all, you know, the DPM is not great. You have 1950 DPM, and yeah, five rounds a minute, which is about 12-second reload. Accuracy is 0.36, which is actually pretty decent, but all in all, the tank's firepower to me is nothing spectacular. 3.1 out of 5 stars for the EBR 105. The next aspect we'll be taking a look at is survivability. Now, we all know that this tank has some kind of special force field on each tire, so no matter how big the shell is that hits it, it doesn't take any damage and it doesn't even slow down. It's hard to hit, it has a small profile. The thing is like a little cockroach running around on the field, and it's, you know, it has 9 lives like a cat. So we're going to give the survivability rating a 4.5 out of 5 stars, just because it is, in the right hands, very difficult to kill. Next, maneuverability, 5 out of 5 stars. I can't really argue that fact. There is no other vehicle more mobile than this vehicle in the game. 90 kilometers going forwards, which is ridiculous, by the way. Crazy acceleration. Yeah, we're just not going to even talk about it. Next is visibility. Now, this is where the tank is kind of controversial, to say the least. 350 is just right of meters view range, is right on the cusp to where running premium consumables and other things, you can get the vision all the way up to the maximum spotting distance, which is 445 meters. You can't put binoculars on wheeled vehicles, which is, thank you Wargaming for at least doing that. So the view range isn't great. The camo value is, though, quite good, and it's small, so you can't hide. So 3.2, again, just because the view range is not amazing, but I will say it's better than average considering what it can do. So next and last, we're looking at versatility. This tank has a decent gun depression at -7 degrees, and mostly it's its mobility, but it can basically get anywhere on the battlefield, and if you're kiting enemies and you're going up against even 6 by yourself, it's not really that hard to pull off a win, just because you can get away and fight enemies one-on-one. On top of that, you have the crazy gun handling where you can snap things on the move. It's got the, you know, the crazy auto aim system that these vehicles get. You can't flip over, you can't get tracked, all the BS that this tank comes with. On top of that, you have some crazy overpowered HE rounds that can do 500 alpha damage, so you can actually, you're an anti-arty, anti-light tank vehicle. It should be on a class of its own. So I'm going to give it a 4.1 out of 5 stars for its versatility. So that puts the total score of the EBR at 19.9, which is going to beat out its brother, the AMX 13105, in this rank. So total, again, the 13105 got 18.6 out of 25, while the EBR 105 got 19.9 out of 25, giving the victor to the 105, EBR 105. So anyway, hopefully you guys like that comparison. I will say that the EBR 105 is a troll tank, and I don't really like playing it. I don't have anything against people that do. It's Wargaming's fault for introducing it, but the 13105 is still the favorite in my category if I had to pick between the two. I like having the clip potential and having the vision, and actually the fact that it's a real light tank it's a win in my book for the AMX. But the EBR, if I'm not being biased, is definitely the superior tank in this comparison. Anyway, guys, that was Tank Showdown, my first episode. Let me know down below what vehicles you want me to compare next. I've been thinking maybe the Death Star versus the Heshbarn would be a fun comparison for the next video. Maybe the T-62A versus the Object 140. Those might be some fun comparisons. So anyway, yeah, let me know down below which tanks you want me to compare next, and I will catch you on the next episode. Thank you for watching.